We got some amazing news for Fresh today. I honestly cannot believe they actually did it, and there's a lot to talk about here. Well, not really talk about, more like making a case, because I've seen the feedback to the feedback and it is hilarious. Updated on November 18th, after working through a great deal of player feedback, we have decided to provide some additional changes that will be a part of the anniversary realms. Now, one thing that misses clarification, and they have a habit of making things unnecessarily unclear, is this gonna apply to hardcore? Because I think some of these things would really matter in hardcore, and it's not clear if they will. Anyway, the new changes is we are getting instant mail, which is whatever. I mean, it's cool. If you instant mail to your alt, you're gonna get it immediately, so you can mail yourself consumables to Kargat, for example. That's gonna be a big deal. Say, for example, you're about to go to Molten Core and you forgot your potions. You can just go into a bank vault, buy the gear in Orgrimmar, and the potions I mean, and you can just mail them to your main in Kargat, and you don't have to teleport and stuff, you know. It's gonna make it a lot more convenient. It is not a big deal for me. It might be a big deal for you. I don't really care about that one. This one is huge, and that's the removal of the buff and debuff limit. Now, as you guys know, in Vanilla proper there was a 8 debuff limit until I think AQ 40 or something, and then it became 16. We got 16 debuffs in Classic, and that's pretty much the entire era experience. We had 16 debuffs you could put on a boss, and they would fill up really quick. You're talking like Rend, every course, every armor reduction thing, all that stuff, it would take up a debuff, and that made it so a lot of problems came out from that. For example, if you used a particular item or an enchant that would put a debuff on the boss, that could push away an important debuff, like say for example Sunder Armor, and that would ruin the entire fight. Not to mention that there were many classes that could not function properly because of the debuff limit. The most common you can think of is the Warlock. The Warlock is not going to be able to use all his dots on the boss because of the debuff limit, and the Warlock was essentially a Shadow Bolt spammer for all of Vanilla, but now this will actually give a lot more depth and variety to the rotation of the Warlock, and I think that's great. Also, there were quite a few meme specs that will continue to be a meme. Of course, they will continue being a meme, but they will be more viable. For example, Paladins, Red Paladins are going to be able to use their seals on the target, Feral Druids are going to be able to put all their bleeding effects on the target, and this is much later on I guess, but I can recall a couple bosses in AQ 20 that heal themselves. Of course, you also got Hakar, for example. That's not going to be a problem, but just for the sake of argument, you can now have one Earth's Warrior to put Mortal Strike on the boss, so it heals for less. So that's also kind of funny that you can do that now. I am happy. I always thought the debuff limit was stupid and it didn't make any sense. The same people that made Vanilla will tell you that, by the way. It was not that they thought the debuff limit made any sense. They just didn't have the server technology to make it work. It was a memory limitation of the time. They didn't want the debuff limit to be a thing. They just had to make it a thing. And of course, we got the dual spec. Now, this is the one change that I can see a lot of people being mad about, and I will give you some sympathy on this, because dual spec will actually change the way we play, and that might not be something you're happy about. And I will give you the actual arguments for people not wanting dual spec, because I think they are fair. I think overall I am very happy for dual spec. Personally, I like it because if you're a healer, you can now go take a DPS spec and heal. If you're a tank, you can go from like Fury Prot to DPS Fury or something like that. The non-DPSers in the game are gonna benefit a lot from this because they are now gonna be able to actually farm stuff. Also, it makes raids a little more convenient, because what if like for some fights you need more tanks and then you need DPSers and stuff, you can get a more efficient use of your roster that way. But there is also a lot more drawbacks. For example, inflation is gonna be much harder, because if we got dual spec, we are gonna be spending less gold and from respecking, and that's gold that would otherwise control inflation, and now it's gonna go into the economy, so that will cause more inflation. There is also some problems of how it's gonna change the meta, because this will affect the meta in a big way. Different specs work differently on every boss, and that means that people are gonna be swapping to different specs to take better advantage of different mechanics. As I said about the tanks, for example, some fights in vanilla need 4 tanks and some fights in vanilla need 1 tank, and if you can just go from tank to DPS fully without any cost in the middle of the raid, there is really no opportunity cost from taking like 4 tanks or like 4 kinda tanks to just DPS warriors. They are just effectively DPS warriors until you need them to be a tank. So the raid is gonna get overall a lot easier for a lot of guilds, and I think parses are also gonna go out of control because of that, and warriors are gonna become even better. The meta in vanilla is to go Fury Prot, it is to go Fury to tank, but you're still taking Prot talents, you're still sacrificing some damage to go Fury Prot. And if you need to get 4 Fury Prot warriors that DPS in half the raid and tank the other half of the raid, and now they can fully tank in the best spec and then they can fully DPS in the best spec, it becomes that little harder to justify taking something else into the raid. Not to mention, for example, having rogues get the armor debuff or having separate people get different debuffs that would otherwise not be used that much. It will mess with the classes a lot. I don't think it's gonna be overall like a totally negative thing, but I know people place a very high premium on the purity of vanilla. I know the 2019 YouTubers are particularly insufferable about that. Maybe we shouldn't idolize people that just touch women on hotels at conventions of Blizzard somehow manage to make a game, okay? They are not God. Their game can be improved sometimes, even if you disagree with the changes. Just claiming that a change is bad for being the sake of change is just lame. And people were saying, oh, you just want to get Seasonal Discovery into Classic Fresh. You're damn right. You're damn right. They abandoned Seasonal Discovery for this thing. If they put like a tiny bit of Seasonal Discovery into Fresh, I'm gonna call it a victory. And I think most of, at least you know, I got a Seasonal Discovery viewer base. Most of you guys are gonna consider that a victory. If anything, you should blame Blizzard for antagonizing all the player base at the same time by just splitting us up every year. I am not glad about it either. I would much rather be playing Karazhan Creeps or like Scarlet Monastery raid in Seasonal Discovery, but they took it away from me and they gave it to you, so that's what you get. No, they are not raids, they are dungeons in Phase 7, okay? They completely rug pulled us, they screwed us over. It's not even called Karazhan, it's called The Adventures of Deadwind Pass, like they couldn't even spend an afternoon thinking of a cool name. So overall, I would say they are very positive changes. Now, the only thing that is gonna be very controversial if they do it, and I don't know if they will, but I assure you, if they did this, it would get like a huge boost in population. Just boost the experience. Not a lot. Not a lot. I think Season of Mastery 30% extra was a lot. I think if you just do a 10% blanket boost to all the experience in Classic, the entire thing is gonna get a lot smoother. Because 10% more experience would mean that you're not gonna run out of quests, and you do not have to grind mobs all day for quests, and that would be amazing. I think that would make leveling way more than 10% faster. I would not put the experience boost in hardcore, if anything, because the hardcore people are the people that keep trying to tell us what we can't and cannot have on the normal servers now. Those are the people that are complaining about these changes, the hardcore people. So yeah, you know what? You don't want to advocate for it, you don't want any changes, fine, you're not getting anything in hardcore. That's what I would do. If anything, a bit of ironic punishment. I don't know. We're trying to put Seasonal Discovery in your game mode, well, don't try to put hardcore in normal. How about that? I'm sorry guys, I just saw a really stupid video about these changes like 10 minutes ago, and yeah. Anglo-Saxon 2, go guess. How do you feel though? Like, honestly, do you think these are good changes or bad changes? I don't care about the no changes or the yes changes thing. I want you to tell me if you do not think this is a good change, why do you think this will negatively affect the game? I am curious to hear that. In good faith, I would love to hear that. I think overall they will do a lot more help than harm the game, but I am open to changing my mind if you can actually tell me that. Also, if you're playing in America, we're going to be playing on the PvP server of the Horde US, so Dwarf Lord is going to be raid leading, so that's going to be pretty easy for me. The community raids are going to stay in fresh, okay? Join the Discord for more information and subscribe. Join the Discord, and thank you for watching.